right, welcome to the Freedom Corner podcast with the Mississippi Freedom Caucus. I'm your host, Steven Utroska. I got here in the studio with me today, Representative Chris Brown of Amory, Freedom Caucus
Nettleton.
member. Nettleton.
Big town of Nettleton.
Nettleton and Amory. You cover Amory,
the big
don't you?
metropolis. Yeah.
So
I
there
do.
you go.
Amory's the big city in my district.
Oh, yeah.
Nettleton's where I live.
Is that the county seat?
It's the center of our universe.
There you go.
All of our shopping's done in Amory.
Well, I came up
a little
to
bit in
Amory
Nettleton.
over the off session, came up and came to a town hall that you did.
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
So good things going on in Nettleton and Amory.
District 20 is fantastic.
There you go.
So. Good people there.
Glad to have you here on the Freedom Corner podcast. And so you are, a member of the Mississippi Freedom Caucus.
Yep.
You are in your third term. And so,
11. This is the 12th year.
Yeah, that's it.
Ending
it out.
Wow.
So glad to have you here. I know that I want to talk to you today. I know that something that is on your mind, and it's a bill that we fought last year and beat. Killed the bill last year and ended up getting killed in the Senate.
Yep.
But you have a lot of experience and background in this arena, so I want to ask you about it. But it's this electric vehicle bill.
House Bill 401.
Yep, House Bill 401.
Yeah.
It's basically what it is an anti-Tesla bill.
That's what it's become. And just for those that don't know me, my background is I was just trailer trash. I was an RV salesman. So I say salesman. I had 6 RV dealerships around the state and sold out last year. So I do have some experience in franchising and retail sales. And so this bill was very interesting to me because I also have owned a Tesla before, not because I want to save the planet, just because they have super crazy torque and speed. So I've got a Lucid now. It goes 0 to 60 in like 2.8 seconds. So it's kind of cool. But anyway, I digress.
I did have an opportunity to ride with you.
Yeah,
Lucid. Sweet car. Yeah.
The thing about this bill that's concerning is it tends to locks any new ability for a small manufacturer to get started in the state. So what this bill seeks to do is to protect the existing dealers, which I agree with. So if I have a contract with or a dealer agreement with Ford Motor Company or General Motors or Toyota,
and that's a private voluntary contract that you have with them.
So usually you have a market area and a franchise agreement with those manufacturers.
Right.
So it's usually pretty laid out in that contract that I have with that manufacturer. What's my district? What I can have, what I can sell. And that I'm the only one in that area that can sell that product.
Right.
So I don't want to breach any of those contracts. So this doesn't seem to deal with that was my problem. So I'm for our local dealers. I'm for our local dealers being treated right by the manufacturer. I don't want the manufacturer to abuse them at all. Cause again, I was in that position, but I think this goes too far. And I think what this does, it shuts down, new companies that are just now getting started, most of them EVs, but there can be other IC engine companies even. Right now you have Fisker, you have Lucid, you have Rivian, Nikola, some of these other guys that are starting to produce pretty cool vehicles. And if this legislation passes, where it's a problem, like Lucid, they build 4,000 or 5,000 cars a year in the States. They also have manufacturing plants overseas. It's an American company built in Nevada. Well, very few dealers can set up a business model around selling 5 cars a year, 8 cars a year. So I don't know what the allocation is going to be for in a theoretical Mississippi dealer. So if Lucid wants to sell to Mississippi and provide a service to our citizens, this bill would preclude them from setting up a factory dealership like the Tesla store, and force them to try to find a dealer to take their product. Well, Fisker, Lucid, Rivian, those guys aren't going to produce enough to justify a dealership here. So most dealers won't take it. So it's kind of, in my mind, that should have been a caveat in this bill to say, okay, if it's a small manufacturer that wants to go factory direct, open up a dealership here, they should be able to do that. That provides a product to our consumers, provides a service to our consumers, and it doesn't affect the existing dealers in a negative. It doesn't impact them negatively. So I think this bill didn't allow any of that. So again, I'm for our local dealers. I want them protected. I think their franchise agreements do that, but I do not want to preclude companies from locating in the state and putting on a closed sign on the borders of Mississippi.
And so what some of the provisions in the bill, basically what they say is that, the model of Tesla is, like you said, they're not selling enough cars to have, multiple dealerships with franchise agreements and things like that. So they set up in Brandon. here right outside Jackson, they set up a dealership
Right.
where they can sell cars. They're basically a direct from the manufacturer car dealership.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a franchise. There's no local owner to it. It is from the Tesla manufacturer.
But they do employ a lot of local
right.
people.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Employing a lot of local people. But, it's owned by the corporation of Tesla.
Sure.
And so that's how they're doing it now. This bill would basically make that model illegal.
Sure. It grandfathers one store in.
That one store that's
but what
already
if the
in
Gulf Coast,
operation.
What if the Gulf Coast wants a Tesla store?
That's right.
What if they want,
or South Haven, DeSoto County,
Yes.
up near Memphis?
Yeah, if the Tesla store in Memphis wants to move to DeSoto County, this would ban them. They wouldn't be able
That's
to
right.
do that.
They wouldn't be able to do that. And so basically what this comes down to is a lot of the internal combustion, companies are afraid of this competition for the EV companies coming in, and they want to have their own EV spots because a lot of them are coming out with electric vehicles now, and they don't want the competition in that free market workspace. And so they're trying to ban some of these smaller companies, like Tesla and Rivian and Lucid and things like that from coming in and having that direct manufacturer sales model. For Tesla, or any of the other EV companies that are primarily EV. Again, like you said, they don't have enough inventory. They're not selling enough vehicles to have these franchise stores. And so it's a business model that works for them and allows them to be able to operate, because if they had to start putting overhead into franchising stores and doing things like that, they're going to have to put that kind of money into an infrastructure like that. They're not selling enough to do it. It doesn't make sense for their business model.
Sure.
So,
and again, if they were large enough to require that, then yeah, as a dealer, as an entrepreneur myself, I would jump in if I could. Make 10% on a car, but you got to make it up in the volume.
Yeah.
So if you can only supply me 4 or 5, and I think that's the rub too for the local dealers or existing dealers now, is the big manufacturers want them to pay for the infrastructure
right
for their EVs, but they only allocate 4 or 5 a year.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense either.
Yeah.
So I think again, that this seems to be, and there could be something else in here that I'm not seeing, but I've talked to the representative representing the bill and the lobbyist representing this bill, and they all confirm what we think is that they're trying to strengthen the franchise, not the franchise laws, but trying to keep the Teslas out of here.
Right.
I don't understand that mindset. So again, for that reason, we voted. The Freedom Caucus voted against it.
Yeah, last year, and we'll do so again this year.
Yeah.
Well, I take that back. Last year you did. It's already made it through the House.
Sure.
This year, and so there was only
fast.
9 no votes this year. That was just earlier this week. There were 9 no votes in the House. Basically, the Freedom Caucus members plus a couple of extra Republicans, but overwhelmingly Republicans and Democrats in the House. This year voted for this bill. So now it's headed over to the Senate, and hopefully we'll see the same demise that it had last year in the Senate. There was a lot of opposition in the Senate and ultimately died last year. So we can hope that that's the case this year.
And it does seem to be a fight between the dealers and the manufacturers.
Yep.
And that can be handled in a private contract side,
right,
in my mind, because all this is doing is licensing manufacturers to be able to open up a store separate and apart.
That's right.
Which those franchise agreements should preclude that from happening to an existing dealer here's back door.
Yep. No, I agree with you. So that's the EV bill. Again, it's an anti-free market bill.
House Bill 401, if you want to call it.
Yeah, House Bill 401, anti-free market bill.
Yeah.
It's protectionism for those already in the market, those that already have the model set up with franchises, trying to keep those out with a different model that's cheaper for them to do because they're smaller companies.
And a lot of people, just as again, as to reiterate, a lot of people are saying this is a bill to support local dealers. We don't see it. We see it as a bill to dissuade and to stop innovative companies to offer their products in the state. It just puts up a closed sign at the border of Mississippi.
Yep, absolutely. All right, and so I will move on. There's another bill that you introduced that is a kind of an athletic bill.
Kind of, but it's a freedom bill.
Yeah, freedom bill. That's right. It's a freedom bill. It allows. I'll let you explain it more so, though.
Let me give you the backstory right quick. Homeschoolers in the state, they have homeschool teams.
Yep.
So for cross country, there'll be a homeschool team in our area in North Mississippi. It's called Tupelo Spartans. Well, for years they got to participate in the local schools' track meets. Well, all of a sudden MHSAA put out a rule saying that you can't do that anymore. Not because there was any kind of violence or incident or anything. The way we understand it is, it's some parents of the local schools thought that the homeschool kids were going to get some scholarships that their kids might get.
Yeah.
So MHSAA put a rule out saying that any school that participates with a homeschool team will be considered tainted and can't participate in postseason play.
Yeah. And
So
that's the Mississippi High School Athletic Association.
yeah, which is quasi-private. It's supposed to be a private organization, but it's funded by state dollars, and so member schools pay
quasi-governmental organization.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So all this does is to say MHSAA receiving state tax dollars cannot preclude or not represent some kids of the state. They have to represent all the children of the state. So that's athletics and others like debate clubs and things like that, to where, if you're a student and a taxpayer in the state of Mississippi and there's a debate contest or a basketball, if a local school wants to play a homeschool basketball team, MHSAA can't say, okay, Mississippi homeschool kids can't play a Mississippi public school kids.
Yeah. And I know, there's been other bills that are kind of similar to this, that at least in the fact that they would allow homeschoolers to play in, public school sports or whatever. Right. And there's always been the concern that, well, if you allow homeschool students to play in government, school sports, then it will somehow allow the government to come in and start regulating our homeschooling more so. And so there's always been that concern.
And there's a huge split in the homeschool community. Some people want what they call a Tebow bill, and some people don't. And so this has nothing to do with that.
Right. And so this gets completely rid of that argument. It has nothing to do with that. So there's any homeschoolers out there that have had those concerns in the past about other bills. This basically alleviates that, and it gives really more control down at the local level.
Sure. And what it does, it allows parents to organize teams in their homeschool community and be able to participate in their taxpayer funded facilities.
Right.
And so, again, like basketball, if there's a homeschool basketball team, now if they act up or do something bad,
sure,
they still don't have to play them. But what this does, MHSAA has put out a rule saying that even though the local public school is willing to and wants to add a homeschool basketball team to their schedule, MHSAA says you cannot.
Right.
So basically, it just returns control back to the local level where it should be.
Yep.
Instead of in Jackson at MHSAA.
Yep. And so, I've talked about this before, but I homeschool my kids. Mm-hmm. They're young. They're not really into sports. My son plays baseball, at a city league basically. But,
sure.
He hadn't got to the age where schools are playing it. But I know you homeschool your kids as well.
Homeschool all but one. My youngest son, he graduated at a little school in Monroe County called Creo.
Okay.
Great job. Shout out to my Creo team. Good job, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, good. Yeah. So, but I mean, it's something to both of us, and many people I know that are listening to us or watching this, that may homeschool their kids. Mm-hmm. And we have seen through COVID, huge amounts of parents pulling their children out of both public and private schools to homeschool them, to keep them at the home and give them the education that they want to give to their children.
Sure.
And so I think this is only going to continue to build with these type issues that homeschoolers are going to face.
And it builds on all educational freedom.
Yep.
As a parent, nobody wants what's best for my kids more than I do.
Right.
More than you do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think if we empower parents and get them more involved with their children's education, the state's better off all the way around.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the consolidation of the power in Jackson in any aspect that drives a system that does not tend to work as well as if it's local controlled.
Yep.
And the Department of Education in Jackson is a thorn in most of our local educators' side. They corrupt the system back home, and they have to fight it. And I don't know of any educator, no educator friend of mine loves the Mississippi Department of Education.
Right.
So, and that's again the same thing we're fighting against. It's that consolidation of power in Jackson, either with Mississippi Department of Education or MHSAA.
Yeah.
So you got to get it back on the local control. If the local school's willing to play a homeschool team, let them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's what conservatives have always fought for, is to bring back local control.
Is that radical thought?
Yeah, it seems to be up here in Jackson.
Yeah, in the Jackson bubble. I'll always tell people that when you get sworn in and you're under that dome, there's some kind of intoxicant in the air that makes things that all of a sudden makes sense under the dome, but doesn't make sense back home.
Right.
So you go to the barbershop or the local cafe and you start talking to them about things that are introduced or passed here, and they look at you like, what?
Yeah.
Are you crazy?
Like banning Tesla from opening up a dealership.
That's right. Or saying that local schools that want to play a homeschool team can't.
Yeah.
Because MHSAA said we can't. And then they're going to penalize that local school.
Right.
Makes no sense.
Yeah, absolutely no sense. Yeah. Again, it blows my mind that we have a supermajority of Republicans in both the House and the Senate, and we get an anti-free market, anti-competition bill like the Tesla bill coming out. It's not called the Tesla bill, but that's what we refer to it as because everybody knows what you mean when you say that.
Well, the whole bill came about because of the Tesla dealership.
Right. That's
and
right.
So
yeah,
I think it's fair to call it
the
Tesla.
one Tesla dealership that is in Mississippi right now. And the bill, I know we're going back to the Tesla bill again, but that bill would allow that one dealership to be grandfathered in, but then would preclude any others from ever opening again in Mississippi. And so it blows my mind, though, that we're a Republican-led state, a Republican-led, both chambers, the House and the Senate, supermajority of Republicans on both sides, and all but 9 Republicans voted for this bill or were absent, but there's only 9 no votes on this. All of them were Republicans, but all the other Republicans either voted for this bill or took a walk on it.
And the interesting part is, as you talk to people in the House chambers, there's a lot of people that say, I would have loved to vote no on that bill.
Yeah.
I hate this bill, but they go green on the board. And I'm not speaking ill of my colleagues. I'm not. I do think there's a certain amount of pressure that goes with being a legislator.
Yeah.
And some just continue to vote the way they do because of a fear of reprisal sometimes.
Yeah.
And again, it's just it's human nature, I think.
Yeah.
You want to be accepted and people like
unfortunate. And that's why we need more people to step up and run for office.
Yeah. Hey, there's still time to qualify.
There is still time to qualify.
When's the deadline?
We got what's February 1st is the deadline. That was moved up a month 2 years ago. The Incumbent Protection Act.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to move that deadline up so you'd have less time to qualify.
Right.
But they still
we voted no on that too.
Yes, you did.
And they raised the fees to qualify too.
That's right.
We voted no on that.
Yep. So they moved the deadline, so it's February 1st now. So basically, you have till the end of the month. So you've got a little over 10 days now.
So people watching here,
that's right.
If you want to qualify, look at your district. Get in touch with the Freedom Caucus. We'll guide you through the process. We need more freedom fighters in Jackson.
We do, absolutely. And whether you're of the mindset to join the Freedom Caucus or you just want to be a true conservative ally to the Freedom Caucus, even if you don't join us, if you can be one of our allies, there's not many allies we have out there outside of the Freedom Caucus in the House right now.
And I'll tell you, Stephen, that a lot of people that vote different than me are my friends.
Right. Sure.
I like them. I respect them. If anybody that votes the way they believe, I respect their opinion. I respect their position.
Yeah.
I can disagree with them without getting mad at them.
Right.
And
absolutely.
I think that decorum and that I will fight them on the policy. I'll fight them on why I think I'm right. But at the end of the day, I'm not mad at them.
Right. Sure.
I just want to try to bring more people to our side to say freedom is the way.
Yeah. Well, what makes me mad though, and it does make me mad that they would go out and campaign and tell their constituents that they believe in one thing and then get here and vote the complete opposite to that.
I had a new member. It was, I will not mention any names, obviously, but there was a huge tax bill that came up. And the new member came to me and he said, I don't know what to do. My friends here want me to vote for this, but I don't know. I want to vote for a big tax increase. And I looked at him and I said, well, what'd your push card say?
Yeah.
You look at your push card. If you went door to door and you said, I'm going to vote for taxes, I'm going to vote for more government, I'm going to vote for bigger government, then you can vote yes. But if you told your people back home, I'm going to fight taxes, I'm going to fight big government, and I'm going to resist any tax increases, then you have to vote no.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, say you end up voting green, but still the bill died, which was good. But the pressure's real under the day.
Yep. Well, good. Well, look, I have thoroughly enjoyed it. It's always good to have you in the studio here. It's always good to have you fighting with the Freedom Caucus. Glad you're a member here. But look, we are out of time. I try to keep it to around 20 minutes, and we're getting right up on that. So thanks for coming in and telling us about bills. We'll have you back in on the podcast later again in the session to talk about more bills.
Thanks to all our podcast listeners.
Yep. All right. With that, we will end. This is Freedom Corner Podcast, and I always end it by saying, Chris, there's no one else I'd rather have fighting in my corner. Thank you. Y'all God bless. Thanks so much.
God bless.